Same game freak here. I only got like a few more hours left until my birthday is over. But I thought it was smart to make a video that more likely is going to be very lambasted because of my opinions being different from everyone else's. But I'm at the mood right now. The rest of the day was fine, so I'm at a fuck it mood with it, alright? I'm getting too old for this shit. Ha! Get it? Because I'm 28 now. Anyways, so during E3, Pokemon, or Junichi Masuda specifically, kind of confirmed that there would be no national decks in Pokemon Sword and Shield. And the community went nuts because that meant that essentially not every Pokemon that you can transfer to home will be transferable to Sword and Shield unless they show up in the Galar decks, essentially. And people lost their fucking minds. And I'm gonna be real with you. Of all the things Game Freak has done, I feel like this is the thing that like y'all shouldn't be. Oh, let me put it this way. In my opinion, I don't view this to be the hill I care to die on. Also, if you hear anything, that's probably the AC, because it's more likely I'm going to get pretty heated as this video goes on. But the goal is not for that to happen, but I know me. I'm also going to do like a raw take, so wherever comes from it, comes from it. So, kind of getting into my thoughts and opinions. The reason why I don't, because here's the thing. Is it cool if they're in there? Fine. But is it cool? But am I angry that they're not? Not really. And I'll explain why. The national decks and concept has always... It was introduced in Generation 3, I believe. It fucking sucked. It's always sucked. And let me explain what I mean when I say it sucked. Because I know people. There's like 3 reasons why people care about the national decks being gone. Which pretty much translates to why you can only get Pokemon from the Galar region and that's it, right? Anything that's not in the Galar region, you can't get. The reason why it sucked personally for me is because it then created arbitrary things that had to be brought up in every generation moving forward to then fit the national dex protocol. For example, I had to get a mega fucking ring around my arm in Gen 7 because Mega Evolution was introduced in Gen 6. And in Gen 8, it would have been a Mega Evolution band, a Dynamax band, a fucking Z ring, like 3-0, and whatever the fuck I needed to do to create a Lowland Pokemon. That would have been another fucking thing. And that means, and to me, that's limiting as developers. That means any new thing they want to try, they also have to stack 6 other mechanics under it, which would have been Mega Evolution, Z moves, all that other bullshit. The other thing I find ridiculous is that National Dex has been gone since Gen 7. It wasn't in Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Moon, and it wasn't even in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Which I know people's arguments with that is that, oh, well, Pikachu and Eevee weren't considered to be real Pokemon games. Although, for the other remakes, you had the National Dex, like Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire. So why is it that the Let's Go series didn't get any of that outreach? I don't know, I just find that a little hypocritical in my opinion. And like I said, it wasn't in Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun and Moon. Except the only advantage with those games is that they work with Pokemon Bank. That was the advantage with those games. So that's my first thing, is that if it... Also, just the... Because like I said, there's 3 reasons why people would care about the National Dex. Is either A, is because you want to catch them all in every generation, right? That process has sucked in every generation the National Dex has been in. In Gen 3, you had the trade between Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Then you also had the trade through fucking Pokemon Coliseum and XD. Then you also had the trade through Fire Red and Leaf Green. It was a terrible experience. You move on to Gen 4. You had the trade between Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black and White 2, Pokemon Battle Revolution. It was a shitty fucking experience. Gen 6, it was the same deal. You went through the same shit. You had the trade from one generation to the other. So catching them all, and that's why I find it funny that people are using that fucking meme like it's a real joke. Like it works as a joke. Catching them all has sucked for since back in 2000 and what was that, 3? I think Gen 2 was the last generation you could legitimately catch them all like in a normal experience, and not this bullshit where you had to sit there on the floor with 2 Game Boy Advances or whatever, or 2 DSs and trade back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So it can't be for catching them all because you didn't do it. You had to do this arduous task where you had to go back and forth between generations and trade over. It was a shitty goddamn experience. So that's the first thing. The other 2 reasons you might care is for post-game, because that's what kills me, is that I find it funny that my 2 favorite generations, 3 and 5, did this. Where 3 and 5, you could only play with Pokemon in that region. Meaning, Generation 3 and 5 only let you play with Hoenn and Unova Pokemon. There was no bleed over like there was in Gen 4, or in Gen 2, or in Gen 6, or in Gen 7, or even what's coming in Gen 8. There was no bleed over, so you had to play with the new Pokemon. I think those were new, fresh experiences. They also weren't tied down by bullshit-ass mechanics that were introduced in earlier generations. I don't need Mega Evolutions. People want to sit here and talk about, and then people wanted to make fun of Junichi's comments about balance, saying, well, the Pokemon series has never been balanced. So you don't think that they should try to balance the game then? Do you think Megas are balanced? Fuck no. Z moves were closer, still not it. And I think Dynamax is even closer. We'll see how it goes, but the point I'm trying to make is that, like, just because a game isn't balanced doesn't mean the developer should stop trying to make the game balanced. So I hate that argument. The other issue is that, so getting back to the 3 points I made it. So it's either for the post game, which as recent gens have showed have been fucking garbage for the most part. The last, I think, Gen Ultra Sun and Ultra Moons was okay. Gen 5s was good. I think Gen 3 through 5 and then like the end of 7s were like the last generations had good post games. And I can understand that argument, right? You especially Black, White, and Black 2s where you can fight in the tournament. Who wouldn't want to fight, the old Kanto or Johto gym leaders with your old Kanto or Johto teams? So I can understand people's want to trade over for that reason. But I also think that people need to me personally, it is not that big of a deal. Because it's the main reason why people care about the national decks is for the moments like that in the post game, mind you. And also for competitive. Those are like the 2 main reasons. Is for the post game and competitive, which usually you can kind of bleed the competitive into the post game. And for me, because to me it can't be for the catching them all aspect of it, because that sucked. That's been sucked. And I love it how it's crazy to me that a bunch of Pokemon fans will sit here and stand on this rock and talk about Game Freak needs to stop hanging on to these old ideas. That's why people are so adamant against HMs and shit and wanted customization, right? You want all these fucking things, but the moment they try to cut away something that has been poorly designed since its introduction. National decks sucked when it was introduced because of what it required you to do. It required you to go and own other copies of different generation games. Or different games in the same generation to get that whole decks completed. So for me personally, I don't really care. I want Pokemon to move forward. And I think, and unfortunately, what that really means is that they need to walk away from some of this bullshit. Mega Evolutions are unbalanced as fuck. And they weren't fair, and they were a bunch of pandering bullshit that I couldn't stand. I can't stand Mega Evolutions because it was the same. Gen 6 to me is my least favorite gen, partially for that reason. It was so much Generation 1 pandering, it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening. And they weren't balanced, they weren't fair. Only certain Pokemon could get them, and some Pokemon didn't even fucking need them. Salamence needed a goddamn Mega. Alakazam needed a goddamn Mega. Fuck no! To the point where they had to patch down certain Megas like Kangaskhan's. It was ridiculous. Z moves, like I said, Also, I just think the Pokemon fan base is being incredibly ridiculous with it. They act like this is like the worst thing. Also, why is it now you want to bring it up? People didn't freak out nowhere near as much during Gen 7 with a generation that, by the way, I don't think they even told you. I think you found it out later that, oh, by the way, there is no Pokemon National Dex. Like, I forget, it was through Pokemon Bank, which I don't remember the timeline. Which, mind you, the Pokemon Bank feature got delayed multiple fucking times. And they had to update the Bank app for it to work with Generation 7 anyway. And like I said, Let's Go didn't have it. But all of a sudden, now it's a fucking issue. And the other issue, and to be fair, I will agree that the Game Freak did not do the best at communicating the reality of the issue. Because some people go, why don't you just delay the game to work on all the other models to put them back into Sword and Shield. And I think part of it is that they're at the mercy of the Pokemon company. Pokemon is not kind of like other IPs anymore, where the games dictate everything. Not at least in the way you're thinking. I think it literally is that the anime needs to have all that information and needs to be ready to go as soon as the game's coming out. Because think about it, if they delay the games, that means the anime has to get delayed. That also means the trading cards have to get delayed. And that creates a whole nother thing. They all have to be lined up. So Game Freak is stuck on this stupid ass deadline due to how the Pokemon company is structured. Because everything hinges on the games, meaning that the games delay, that fucks up the anime schedule and they fucks up the trading card schedule. And hell, even the merch, because you can't sell merchandise for Pokemon that haven't been introduced yet. And then what do? Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of other things going on. The model argument, I think people were being assholes with that because people were like, oh, you want to improve models, that's what you said, Junichi, and all, you still have Score Button using double kick, and he's not moving his feet. You know that's not what he fucking meant. Think about it. They already got to redo all the goddamn models for all the Pokemon that will be in Sword and Shield, but they also have to redo all the attack animations that are in the game. All the attack animations have to be redone, not the stupid, oh, well, his feet aren't moving. Would that be cool? I'd be totally down for that. I'm not saying I wouldn't want that. What I'm saying is, some of you people knew what he meant when he said it, and you took it the other way. Same thing when it came to doing models. The models don't look that much different. That's not the point. People are sitting there going, oh, well, they went from DS to 3DS in a short amount of time. Well, they did that in 2 years. Think about it. Like Black and White 2, which was just a slightly upgraded version of Black and White, but had a cool ass post game. That game came out in 2011, which means they probably stopped development on it towards the middle of 2011, right? The same year the 3DS came out. And then it took 2 years after that for Generation 6 to start, because Generation 6 didn't come out until 2013. It's 2 years of nothing, mind you. It wasn't like there was no Pokemon title that came out from Game Freak in 2 years. And then what happened here? Let's Go, and then boom, Sword and Shield. It's the same issue, right? So you can't hold. Also, you're talking about going from DS to 3DS, right? That's not a huge leap versus going from 3DS to fucking Switch, which in a lot of ways is like going from GameCube to Switch. You can't just port a GameCube title that easily, especially something that uses a completely different architecture. It's also, I mean, think about it, that was probably part of the reasons why Generation 6 and 7 had weak Pokemon for their regions in the first place. Because it was a bitch to do them remodeling. And Junichi even says in his interview recently talking about eventually this was going to become an issue. He knew it, and I knew it. That was one of the reasons why I personally said, after a certain point, you don't need to make new Pokemon. But, once again, you're at the mercy of the fucking parent company and your shit hinges also on the anime success and the trading card game success. So, of course, it's a deeper issue than that. So, but at the same time, like I said before, it boils down to there was better ways to communicate it, and But I also think that the fan base is just being unreasonable about this shit. Like, of all the things to freak out about and to flip your shit over, you're mad that an undisclosed amount of Pokemon won't be in the game. That's also what's killing me. You don't know how many Pokemon it is yet. It could be like, if it's like, if 500, if it's at least 500 or more, I'm not really sweating it, right? I'm personally not sweating it. But I also know that people brought up the other issue, right? About how the models, how Game Freak handled the modeling in Sun and Moon and whatnot. That Lily had like 14 different models for cutscenes and they didn't allocate their resources properly. That's fine. I think honestly the Game Freak is in a shitty situation. I think what they want to do with the games and the constraints they have on themselves based off of the company that they're run by is created a really shitty situation. So now they just kind of have to deal with it. And we as fans have to deal with it. And at the end of the day, as a consumer, you don't have to give a fuck. None of you do. That's the reason why you flipped out on Twitter, started slamming Game Freak and Junichi Masuda. I just don't want this to, but I really personally feel, especially considering the history with Gen 3 and 5, that both of those games got shat on when they first came out. Think about it. Gen 3 was the generation where a lot of old school fans dropped off. Gen 5 got shitted on before the games came out, and a lot of people didn't care for Gen 5 because of how much of a weird departure it was, right? Same thing with Gen 3 because it was a departure. I think 8 has the potential to be a vastly better game, but it has to have the willingness from fans to let it breathe. And I think this national deck situation, which I don't think is that big of a deal in the long run, I hate for that to be the reason why this game fails, right? Or doesn't do as well, or gives Game Freak the wrong impression. The other thing is that people are under the impression, oh, well, now my Pokemon are lost or some shit. Well, it's not like they can't still be in home. They just won't be in Gen 8. I actually think that works out because I think that makes any future generation have a unique flavor to it. That Gen 8 has this set amount of Pokemon, and Gen 9 has its set amount of Pokemon. Now, granted, if they're going to do this, I hope they do this the right way and split up the Pokemon evenly. Don't do this shit where you rehash like half of the Galar decks for the next gen and we only get like a even smaller subset of the other Pokemon in comparison. Don't do that. Make them each have their own distinct feel and Pokemon in that region. That's what I would like. We'll see, because I know Game Freak ain't perfect and we already know they have their own set of issues. I'm just of the mindset that I don't view it as a huge deal. Would I sweat it if they announced tomorrow they're getting patched in? I want Game Freak to stick to their guns on some of this shit. I honestly don't believe Megas or Z-Moves need to be in the game. I need this game to break away from its shackles of its older generation. The same way Generation 3 did and the same way Generation 5 did. They tried to break away from their established conventions. 8, I want you to move forward. And I think part of that is going to piss people off. At the end of the day, I think people won't mind as much. I'm not going to sit here and say that competitive would be any different, because the Pokemon is still unbalanced. It won't make a difference. It just means the broken Pokemon Galar will be a top tier. Unless this will be the first generation that they choose to start patching the game. That would be kind of cool if they did balance patches. I doubt it, but that's the other advantage you have. That you can do constant balance patches in Gen 8 and not have to worry about retroactively adding in some fucking Pokemon. If you stuck to your guns and have Gen 8 just be its own thing, you could just patch Gen 8 and Gen 8 have its own set of feel and tricks to it. I mean, to be fair, every generation of Pokemon kind of has that already, but like, if they consistently balanced it out, like maintain, like, oh, this Pokemon doesn't get a lot of play because of this reason, or this, that reason. If you patched the game constantly and did it, that'd be cool. But that's if you can do it. And granted, considering your tight-ass schedule, I think that's probably the reason why you don't do it. When you gotta release a new game every fucking other year, it's just like, Jesus Christ. But, I don't know, those are just my thoughts and opinions. Leave yours in the comment section below. I think some of you guys just took this shit to a level that really showed the terrible side of the Pokemon community. Some of you people showed your ass over a really shitty mechanic in the older games. I'm just not with that, yo. I can't, yo. My throat hurts. It's dry, so I'm done talking. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Loves the game, play to win. I'll catch you guys later.